Hello and welcome to this edition of Cooking Up Virtual Events with my special guest today, Sina Bunte. Hopefully I said that okay, Sina. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. I know you've been on a few other editions of this show, or I don't really know what to call it, but I think it's a fun little gathering. And I can see that a lot of our guests are joining us. There are about 20 people already logged in. Please let us know if you're joining. Give us a hello and let us know where you're joining from. It's always nice to see who you are and where you're connecting from in this crazy world of online events. There we go. Here's Heidi from Norway, the first one to write in the comments. Thank you for joining us, Heidi. And Heidi's also released the trip today, if I'm not mistaken. So if you don't know what that is, check out Heidi's profile. You'll find out very quickly all about the trip that she's planning, the virtual trip, I believe. We have Christian and Sina. Please say hello to the people as well that you recognize. Happy for you to jump in. Christian from Cologne, one of our regular viewers. Thank you so much for joining us again, Christian. We have, there's a lot of people now. It's probably get tough to catch up with everybody. Josephine, I think you know Josephine quite well. We have Wei Ting as well. Hey, Sina. Hey, Miguel, she says. We have Rajani. Thank you for joining us again, Rajani, all the way from India. We have Nanik, who I've just connected with from the Netherlands. So nice to have a home person as well there. Yeah. I think you're based in the Netherlands as well. Yeah. Elizabeth in Salzburg. Excellent. Thank you for joining us, Elizabeth. We have Angela in a sunny but cold Dublin. Monique from Utrecht. Very nice. We have Eric in Nice. We have Diana from Germany, I believe. Du rockst das. Very good. Yeah, nice. We have Rohit says hello. Hey, Miguel. We have Caroline from Munich. Definitely a more European participation today. We have Yuji as well, connecting from Cologne. Nice to see you, Yuji. Thanks for joining us. And Anne Nguyen, all the way from Calgary. Read faster, Miguel, she says. Okay, I'll try. And we have Sebastian from Singapore, I believe, right?
No, he's in Amsterdam. Yeah,
he's in Amsterdam. Sorry, my fault. My mistake. Very good. And we have Ivo also in Amsterdam, just around the corner from the ICCA headquarters, I should say. Mm-hmm. We have Joe in Gainesville, Florida. Okay, somebody from across the pond also joining us. And we have also, let me see if I can catch up, Matthijs, thank you so much for joining us from Alkmaar. We have Jessica in Berlin. And we have, who else? Margarita in Amsterdam. And we have Carmo Geraldes from Portugal, from my home country. So quite a selection. And wow, we have someone, Ayan, from Azerbaijan. So quite a collection here, quite a different selection of people. And I'm just checking in on LinkedIn. We have 67 people right now live. No pressure, Sina. Are we ready? Are we ready to talk about this event? This is an amazing event that we're going to be talking about today. I think it deserves all the attention that it gets. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit, just very briefly, about who you are and when we met and how did we meet. I believe it was maybe through MPI. I have a pretty good recollection of a Future Leaders Forum, and also I think in Dusseldorf, 2014. Could it be that we kind of connected there? You know, it's been a little while. We've been to a few events together.
Maybe not that, but yeah, but I think the first time we met was at the Future Leaders Forum, right? Like 2012, maybe. We were both attending, I think. So yeah, and then I think once I joined ICCA, I think we met again at EMEC, an MPI event.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like I think every year, you know, IMEX, MPI,
we are part of the Traveling Circus that does a series of events every year, which unfortunately this year we've not been able to, but on a normal year we would see each other a few times a year, definitely. And when did you start working with ICCA?
2013 as an intern. Yeah, so 7 years ago. Time flies. Yeah.
Oh, so you did the internship, you did the whole process, you stuck around.
Everything. I started as events assistant, did registration, and then moved up, events manager, and yeah, this year I was in charge of the Congress.
That's quite a journey from from intern to being in charge of a multi-hub hybrid conference. Congress, that's quite a journey. I want to just give a few more shout outs to Jillian in snowy Montreal, somebody else from across the pond. Nice to see you, Jillian. Monica in Barcelona. We have Linda Garzon Rocha from Mexico. We have a LinkedIn user from Argentina. I don't know why LinkedIn does that sometimes, so we can't see people's faces sometimes, but it's nice to know that there's someone watching from from Argentina. We have Charles Eric Villan from Brussels, Kai in Brussels as well, Almi from Malaysia. I believe somebody connected with ICCA.
Correct.
Yes. Excellent. And Carla Gonçalves from Cascais, again in Portugal, and Diana Fredrickson. Hi, Sina. So happy to see you both.
Yay.
And also Ana Pinheiro from Lisboa. What a collection of people. Thank you so much for joining. 76 people now live. And if you're watching this in a recording later, please also add where you're watching from. We'd love to see where you're watching from later on. We also have Willy Cortes from Amsterdam, Luca Grassi from Lugano, and Diana says she's in London, and Lena is in Copenhagen. So quite a nice European audience we have here today, quite spread out. So let's jump in. ICCA Congress 2020. A little bit different from the other years for obvious reasons. Tell us a little bit about this event. We've got a video to show everyone, but I wanted to get from your perspective. Tell us a little bit about this event in your perspective.
Yeah, it was very different. The event was scheduled to take place in Kaohsiung, Chinese Taipei in November. As a normal event, our Congress is usually in person and straightforward, like we are used to have our events. But this year is different, obviously. So in March, we decided to go hybrid. So to change the whole event design and concept and have a hybrid event. We didn't go to the only virtual way because obviously we're in the meetings industry. We want to meet, we want to bring people together. So we said, okay, let's do hybrid. And to even enable more people to join, we created hubs around the world. So besides the main event in Kaohsiung, Chinese Taipei, we had 8 hubs around the world where people could meet. So it was, for example, in Riyadh, Cape Town, in Europe, so in Korea, in Malaysia. So we had hubs around the world. So if people couldn't travel to Chinese Taipei or somewhere else, they could meet regionally. And so that was a totally new concept. And also in those hubs, we then had sessions going on. So it was not just a watch party, let's say, but actual education happening there with speakers on stage and the participants. And then obviously the online attendees. So that was the biggest group. So it was totally different event this year, totally different event design. Everything changed, but exciting. And it worked out.
Wow, amazing. And just to be clear, so this was not just viewing parties spread out all over the world. You had speakers, you had content, you had networking happening in 8 locations around the world.
Correct. So we basically live streamed 4 hours in the morning Central European time to everybody. So everybody was watching the same content. But then in the afternoon, or depending where they were, maybe in Asia, then it was the morning, they had local program. But even this local program, we still live streamed online. So people could follow whatever hub, whatever content they wanted. And there were a few sessions that were only for the on-site people where they went to like different venues or had workshops. But basically, everybody could choose and watch everything wherever they were. So
you didn't have to sort of eat facing a camera, right? When you had a nice meal, you could go somewhere and enjoy that only with the local people, but then the content was communal to everybody, right?
Exactly.
That sounds pretty good. I like that balance. I like to have a nice meal with my friends around sometimes. So that sounds really good. Let's jump to the video. Thank you for the introduction. I think the video will help to at least set the scene for those who are less familiar with the event. And while we're watching the video, what I'd love to ask the people who are watching live is, if you were there, tell us about your experience. Tell us which hub you were watching from and tell us if you enjoyed it. What was your favorite bit? Just share your experience with us, and we'll try to bring those into the conversation as well, because I think we'd like to have some different points of view from different people. So tell us about your experience if you participated, whether online in a hub or even in Chinese Taipei, and we'll watch the video to kind of give everybody a bit more context.
Welcome to our ICCA Global Kickoff, the really exciting launch this year of our 59th Annual Congress.
This is going to be very exciting. A warm welcome to another live global broadcast.
I wish to thank you for attending this opening ceremony of the 59th ICCA Annual Congress.
Welcome to the most beautiful harbor city in East Asia, Kaohsiung.
And I'm coming to you live from my studio here in Redmond, Washington, Seattle, actually.
And I think there's a lot of power of having the inspirational speaker and doing that in a kind of a group setting with sometimes thousands of people in a room. There is a shared energy there.
I wish you a warm virtual welcome to Luxembourg.
We're in an era of enormous change.
Hello, my friends in the ICCA community.
Copenhagen Pride has been the center of equal rights, the history, the culture, and the visibility of the LGBTI+ community.
Give us a wave, please.
Good afternoon, Kaohsiung, and good morning to our ICCA family around the world.
Hi, good morning, everybody. We're here in Malaga.
Greetings from Kaohsiung.
Mix with the people and transfer the knowledge.
Excited to connect with you from Cape Town.
Kaohsiung! Yeah, yeah, yeah. ICCA Congress 2020! Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It is a great honor to be recognized for the ICCA Best Marketing Award. You're all looking great.
All of the software that we've built is specifically designed to enable networking
and digital transformation, especially when we're going from optimization to innovation. Nobody knows what the perfect offering looks like.
My name is Elena Murang, and I'm a musician from Sarawak, Malaysia.
Please go ahead to sign the Kaohsiung Protocol. And also James, to please stand up and hold up the Kaohsiung Protocol for a virtual group photo.
Welcome to Cartagena.
We fully support Cartagena's bidding for the ICCA Congress in 2021 and can't wait to have you all enjoying the magic, the sounds, the colors, and the flavors of the Colombian Caribbean. Welcome to Cartagena.
Wow. where to start. There was some impressive audiovisuals. There was some very impressive speakers. That looked really good. I wanted to just highlight a few of the comments we've seen from people watching. Rajani says she was there as a virtual delegate. It was fantastic. She missed the face-to-face serendipity of meeting old friends and making new ones. We try to do that as much as we can online, but it is a challenging thing. She also says she can't wait for Colombia. So hopefully you have somebody who will be joining you in Colombia. Tommy Goodwin is also watching. He was a North America Hub speaker and says you did an amazing job with all the hard work, make things as seamless as possible. We have Senya, one of your colleagues, stuck in the Pacific Northwest, really enjoyed being able to choose different hub programs based on the content, what was most appealing to me. And that's an interesting fact that Senya brings up. So, when you're remote, you can really choose any of the content that you want when you're doing the virtual experience. So that adds a sort of extra layer to that way of participating as well, right? I also wanted to highlight, again, Eric Abramson says the Luxembourg Hub, fabulous site organization, lineup of speakers, session, and content. Excellent. So we have views from all over the world. Anne says that she's exhausted just watching this. She says you're a rock star as well. And we've already had a question from Gudrun about the platform, which Josephine jumped in and answered. And we'll get to the platforms a little bit later on, because I think it's not as simple as it seems. I think there's a lot to uncover there. So I think it's really interesting. And a lot of people are saying they like the recap videos. So amazing. What an ambitious project. I think you guys really threw yourselves into the deep end. And we were talking before the show, nothing like this had been done before, as far as I know, right? From the ICCA perspective. You did have an experience once before on a smaller scale. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We've done like years ago, I think it was 2014 or 15, one of our smaller events, hybrid. It was called RSMP. So we had the event here in Amsterdam, but then live streamed to the online audience. So that was our first hybrid experience back then. But we've never done anything like that with like hubs around the world and things like this. So that was definitely a different number.
Yeah, just a quick shout out from Sean as well, who's watching. Congrats to the ICCA team. And Anarita saying hello. But we have a really nice comment here from Luca Grassi saying, what most impressed me during the 59th ICCA Congress was the general direction of the entire event, bridge between a classical Congress and a high-performing TV studio. It's not easy, but the future of congresses, I believe. Thank you, Luca, so much for your comment. I think that's really good. We have a question already, and I think it makes sense to answer that here. Elizabeth asks, are you thinking about keeping parts of this concept, the hubs and the virtual, for the future?
Yes, I think we all agree. We all event pros. We agree that hybrid or virtual won't go away anymore. And also, us from like ICCA, we saw that really the value of providing our members with the hubs around the world, so they could choose where they want to travel to, or if not possible, or for whatever reason, they could then join online. And I think the online component is such a great value for participants. They could join from wherever they want and whenever they want, because everything is available on demand afterwards. So I definitely think that the future events will also be hybrid. Yeah.
Nadia also says it looked very impressive. Good job. Great conversation happening online. And Sean asks another question, which I think is interesting. How did you decide on the locations, I believe that's what he's asking, of the regional hubs? Was it the ICCA team? Was it the chapters? How did that work?
It was the board of directors. So we went out with an RFP to all our members, and all members could bid for it. And then we received the bids, and then we made the decision on board level. Yeah. And also the response of that was huge. And I think that shows again that our destinations around the world, our members are the destinations, they are willing to be part of this hybrid experience and have the hubs. So I think that also really showed what the future will be like. So more regional events, not hosting like a huge congress, but rather have different parts around the world. And we saw that it worked, and the hubs, they liked it. They wanted to be part of it and saw the advantage of it, the benefit. Yeah.
So what you're saying is you threw the challenge out to the members, and they wanted it, right? They accepted the challenge. And
They were
did you have,
up for that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And
how many bids did you have? Can you share that with us? Like, did you have way too many bids that you couldn't?
well, it was a tough decision, and also especially like how we usually select our destinations, also with a site inspection, and I couldn't go to any site inspections, so that was difficult for sure. But yeah, in the end, it was a tough decision, but we were able to make the decisions, and it worked out. And even in Europe, then we had 2 hubs, so Luxembourg and Malaga, to give more people the option to meet, but also to give to destinations the possibility to host it. Yeah.
Perfect. And we have Zira. She has amazing how Sina transformed into a hybrid events prof. So big ups from Zira. And I'm just going to keep going with the questions, because I think by answering these questions, we're also kind of answering the stuff that we maybe thought about ourselves. So I think it's great to just go with the flow of the people, what people are asking. Jillian's asking, will you create ongoing events for the hubs post-event, pre-other events? Keep that engagement conversation going. Wow, there's a lot packed into that question. How do you see that?
Yeah, so post-event for the hubs are not planned. So we are still working with the content that we currently have and with the registered people. So still engaging them in like networking meetings, or like promoting that they should watch the on-demand content, which is still there. But nothing is planned with the hub so far. But I mean, let's see what's next year.
You never know. It might take on a life of its own, right? If you have all these things.
Yeah.
Amazing. Great. And also Nadia asks, and I think we're going to get to this a little bit later, but maybe you can give us an idea. What's the most challenging in delivering this experience and coordinating so many teams across the globe? Sounds like there's a challenge in her question right away, but can you pinpoint any specific things that you found most challenging?
So obviously we faced many challenges, but one for me was really that as the organizer, I couldn't go anywhere. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges for me. I couldn't go to any site inspections. I couldn't meet any of the teams on site. And I couldn't even go to the studio of our technology provider in the UK. So that was really challenging and difficult to like let go and trust the teams on site. And otherwise, we come to that, I think, but there were many people involved, many new people, many new stakeholders. So that was a challenge. And what she's saying, like a global team across the world, like, I had to make the team smaller and create task force and little groups and work with them. I have regular meetings. I think, Zoom and Teams are my best friends now. So and also we have like collaborative tools online, like, like Google Documents, Teams, channels that you can work together with different people. So that's what we used to make it work.
The way you worked had to change, right? It wasn't as, I guess, linear or necessarily structured, but you were doing a lot of communicating in real time and a lot of instant messaging and those kind of things from the sound of it.
No, definitely. I mean, the whole planning changed, and also the whole preparation time changed, because usually we plan our Congress years in advance, let's say. But this time the decision for this new concept was made in March, and the actual planning only started in like June, July. That's when I was then involved. So, and then we were looking at other partners to involve and the technology company. So we did like a design sprint. So we focused on the event design, started with the concept, the ideas, the objective of the event, and what will change. Because obviously, if you have a hybrid event, so the virtual component is totally different, but also the event experience on site for the few people that are on site is different. So how do we combine them? How do we create experiences for both the online and the on-site participants? Was very different, and that in a couple of months. So yeah.
So that was a quick design. Excellent. So there was a question related to that, which was around how did you provide the possibility of networking whilst being in the multi-hubs? Was that only within each hub, or did you also find ways to connect between the hubs?
So we were thinking of how do we connect the online participants and the on-site participants. And we were thinking, oh, shall we like have like little like screens set up of where people can talk to the online participants? But in the end, we didn't decide to go that route because the people that were on site, they really wanted to talk with each other on site. So the networking on site was like naturally done. But then on site, online, we used, obviously we had the chat. So we had the stream and then there's a chat so people can chat online. And then for the another aspect for the online participants was that we used Wonder. So people, it's an online tool where you can have video meetings with one-on-one or with groups. So our online participants could use that. So that was an amazing tool. Otherwise the on-site participants, they also had access to the app. So obviously they had access to the full participant list, so they could chat with anybody wherever they are, if they are attending another hub or online. So that was one form of networking. So we tried to combine them as much as we could, but we also thought the people on site, they want to talk with each other because they haven't met each other for a long time. So
I was trying to bring up the Wonder.me because I think that's a really interesting kind of software to use, and I think it's really interesting that you tried to use that. But I think you make an excellent point, which is, we all like this idea of theoretically connecting between hubs and making this, digital connection, but ultimately, if the people that are in the hub want to connect with each other there, and they're, and that's where the energy is, it feels very strange to kind of stop them or kind of suggesting that they shouldn't be doing that and connecting with other people around the world.
Yeah.
So maybe the online audience, the ones that aren't at a hub, then have an opportunity to connect virtually because they don't have people around them, right? So they can kind of connect
and
in that sense.
in terms of the education, we connected the hubs because there were some sessions that they organized together, so some hubs together, and obviously what we also saw in the video at the beginning and sometimes throughout the event, we went from the studio in the UK to the different hubs to check for questions or any input from the hub audience. So that was a way that we connected them. But otherwise, we got the feedback from the people, like they were in Cape Town, in Malaga. They were so happy to meet there. Like there was, I think, really no need that somebody from Cape Town wanted to talk to people from Malaga. So and they could still do it now. The platform is open until the end of the year. The Wonder, like our networking launch, is still there. So whenever they want to continue again networking virtually, the option is there, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And I'll try to bring up that screen if I can. But let's go through a couple of questions. Thank you, everybody who's watching for the questions. There's amazing questions already in the chat. We'll try to get through all of them, but I wanted to bring a little bit of structure because we have a bit of a flight plan here that we have organized. So I wanted to bring up Christian's question. What will the role of PCOs be in the future? When technology will play a major role, surely venues could do just as well. And there's a bit of a suggestion in Christian's question of, PCOs are no longer relevant. I think rather than commenting on that, and I'm happy if you want to comment on that, but I'd like you to talk a little bit about the different teams that are involved. You mentioned already, I think, DRP you worked with, right?
Yeah,
DRPG,
No,
apologies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, DRP group. You're right. Yeah.
Exactly, DRP group. And tell us a little bit about the different teams. So they were sort of on the production side. You had the ICCA team working. You had separate AV teams on the hubs. Could you describe a little bit in your words the different teams involved and how that worked?
Yeah. So here in Amsterdam, the headquarters, we had our events team, Josephine, Francesca, and myself. And then we had the production company, which is called DRPG from the UK. And they were also, so they were a production company, but technology provider and a overall AV company, let's say. So they had the whole overview of all the hubs and the streaming, etc. And they built the platform. Then we were in touch with Maritz Global Events, and they supported us in the design thinking. And we had a lot of meetings with them throughout the whole process, and they helped us with finding speakers, etc., general support of this massive project. So these were mainly the biggest stakeholders that were involved. Yeah.
And then each hub had their own AV company. And then how did you coordinate between the AV companies?
Yeah, so that was basically DRPG who was doing that. So I was in some of the calls, so mainly at the beginning to bring everybody together. And then I let technology company talk to technology company. So DRPG was there with their team, like online. They were not in the hubs. And then they coordinated with the hubs on site. And also in terms of general support, so the hubs helped us tremendously because there were PCOs, local PCOs involved in the hubs, or the CVBs or the venues helped a lot. Or in Cape Town, for example, my colleague Esmarie, I think she turned into a PCO in that role and was there on site and helped coordinating everything. So yeah, many people and many different small groups. What I meant, yeah.
And I'm guessing there had to be a lot of flexibility in this arrangement, right? Because it sounds like a lot of people were taking on roles that they wouldn't normally take on, but I think it sounds like everybody worked as a team and kind of figured out the way to do it, right?
Exactly. I mean, right from the beginning, we saw like, okay, this is a massive project, but we're all up for that because it was an exciting challenge. So yeah, we needed to be flexible. Also on the show days in November, a lot of my other colleagues that were usually not involved in the events, I pulled them in to be the chat moderator, for example, because I needed sometimes like 6 chat moderators and I couldn't be in all of the chats. So some of my colleagues then took over that role and kind of helped with the event in that sense, although they usually wouldn't. So yeah, definitely we all had to be flexible. Some of us were learning on the go.
Perfect. Nice little heads up, or nice little big ups from Anne as well, saying goes to show that event profs who understand the strategy design behind events can quickly adapt and modify the delivery to the delivery medium. Sina is the epitome of that. So big ups to you for adapting and figuring things out. So tell me a little bit about this technology, because I find, and correct me if you disagree, but I find a lot of companies are really afraid of this technology that you need to create an online and a hybrid event. How did you train the team, or how did you get the team comfortable, and maybe even the board comfortable with this technology, things that we have to do using technology now?
Yeah, there was a lot of trust, obviously, in the DRPG team. So I mean, the team and myself, we had some experience already with webinars and organizing virtual events, smaller ones that we did throughout the year. And this one was obviously new to us, but the DRPG team is very experienced. And they took up this challenge and they were ready for it. And they took on the challenge of like connecting the hubs around the world, which I think was maybe also new to them, but it worked out. And also because of all the AV people, the tech people on site in the hubs, they were very professional with that. So I think also in Cape Town, for example, they've done hybrid events before in that venue. So that helped, of course. So they knew how to organize a hybrid event. And then we just had to connect everything. So it was all in one platform, basically.
Just right. You make it sound easy, but just is complex. Thank everybody for the questions. There's some amazing questions here. I want to try to get through all of this because it's all great content. I wanted to also just ask the audience, if you're watching live or in the recording, if you've participated in the organization of a hybrid event before. And I really want to ask the real hybrid event. So like this ICCA event with hubs, with speakers in different hubs around the world. Have you ever been part of a production of an event like that? Let us know if you have, and maybe share a tip if you have, because we'd love to learn from each other. That's really what this kind of series is all about. But question to you, Sina. I'm kind of merging 2 questions. I hope that's okay with the audience. COVID-19, obviously a challenge. There was a question from Nanik, I think, and from Anne as well. How did you deal with, certain hubs maybe having regulations that are changing overnight, and how did you adapt to that, or what were you able to do?
Yeah, I think the uncertainty throughout the whole process was really nerve-wracking. For example, in Luxembourg, we had to change from Thursday. Thursday, the new regulations came in from the government. Sunday was the event. So the attendees couldn't go there anymore, only the speakers. So that was a very sad change that we had to do, like basically 2 days in advance. Otherwise, we were in touch with the hubs at all times and their regulations. And then we followed their local regulations, of course. So, for example, in Malaga, if there was a restriction, then we kept the registration numbers like that. And what they've done, what I think was really impressive, is they had like fast COVID tests. So within, like, everybody who arrived at the hotel, within 15 minutes, they got the results for the test. So like small security measurements that we put in place, I think really helped to have this event in general. So we had to be prepared in case a hub couldn't go ahead and had to turn into virtual. And so which happened with Luxembourg and Sarawak, Kuching as well. So they also were not able to have an in-person event anymore. So we recorded all the sessions still. We provided a lot of flexibility to our members as well. So if they registered for the hub registration, they could always change it. So we had to be very flexible, like not only for us, for the organizers, but also for the members. So whatever you registered for, it's okay. You can change it anytime.
Yeah, it does sound, I mean, obviously not easy, but it does sound like having this kind of multi-hub setup also gives you a form of flexibility, right? Because you have content coming from different places. If one stops being possible, as long as you can still record the content, or even if you couldn't, you could bring content from other locations and still have those people, participate in some way. So it feels like the ultimate flexibility, but of course with a lot of challenges involved in that flexibility. So it's not just flicking a switch and everything's fine.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the speakers, but I have a question from Shivam Sharma, who says, any tips about keeping the audience engaged throughout the event? I think that's something that a lot of people worry about when it comes to online or hybrid events. Anything that you can share that you think you did well in terms of keeping the audience engaged?
So we basically started with the audience engagement in September. So the whole event unofficially started in September 22nd, where we had a live stream for all participants, for all members around the world. So they could all join in for free and watch it. And then throughout 6 weeks, we always engaged specific sectors per day and had webinars, especially for like associations and CVBs and venues, etc. So that was part of the engagement, as we can see here on the program. So the platform was already up and running since September, so people could go there, start interacting with each other, see who else is attending, go to the networking lounge, for example, and have meetings. Otherwise, during the event, we used like Slido or Menti, all these online audience engagement tools, and we had the chat, obviously, which I think is a must. If you have a virtual event, you have to have a chat to talk to the online people. That's basically what we've done in terms of engaging. And also we did a lot of social media. ICCA is very active on social media. So we had like a Twitter wall, and we always put that up also on site in the hub. So whenever there was no session on screen, you could see the Twitter wall and see what the online audience is talking about and tweet something yourself.
Really interesting. So a lot of things happening before. So talk us through this. You have the event itself, or the Congress itself, starts on November the 1st, right? And we'll get to that in a second. But September 22nd, you start with online sessions.
Correct.
And these continue in September and the beginning of October. What's this yellow section here, if you want to kind of go through that?
This was a storytelling week. So there we had examples from our members per sector of different examples that they've done, and then what other can learn from that. So we had like Mondays associations, Tuesdays CDBs, venues, meeting support, transport sector. These are the different sectors that we have. So that was the first week that we had, and then the second week was crowdsourced topic week. So we asked the participants, or all our members basically, what topic do you want to talk about in your sector? What do you want to learn? What do you want to know? What do you want to hear about? So that was the second week. And then the third.
And what did these sessions look like? They were online webinars?
They were webinars with Zoom. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And they were recorded and available to anybody. No, not recorded.
Well, yes. Well, they were recorded, but they were not pre-recorded. So they were live webinars. and then they were recorded and afterwards indeed available for everybody. So on the day, it was only they were only accessible for the people from the sector. So we had the conversation only with those people, but afterwards we uploaded all the webinars to the platform so everybody could watch them afterwards.
And when we say everybody, I mean everybody who registered, right? So only registered participants get to watch.
Correct.
And then you had a Kaohsiung Protocol Strategy Week.
Correct. So the last week was the Kaohsiung Protocol Week, because with this event, at the end, we developed a Kaohsiung Protocol, which was like a framework of different strategies from every sector and how the industry will evolve. And to get the content for this document, basically, we had the strategy week. So in this week, we had a lot of audience engagement to talk about trends, to talk about the future, etc. So that was that week.
So sort of a co-creation as well, but more with a specific goal, right? And then you had so these were sort of official events or official pre-events.
So obviously we have to have a general assembly, but we didn't do it during the event to have time for education. So we put it a bit in advance on the 19th of October. And then the 22nd of October was again like a global broadcast to only registered people, but like a 3-hour one live from the studio in the UK with remote speakers coming in, talking about topics that were interesting for everybody.
Quick question from Sean. Are we able to access the Kaohsiung Protocol, or is it a member-only benefit?
Yeah, it's not finalized yet, but probably next week, and then it will be available for everybody, not only for members.
Okay, thank you for that. And let's then cover a little bit of the actual event days. So we start November the 1st, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated. And I know this is one of the challenges of how do you display the complexity of all these different events happening at the same time. So we can see here, this is Sunday the 1st, that it really kicks off. You have the welcome opening live from Kaohsiung, and obviously that's in European time. Yeah, this is Central European time, but then that would have been much later in the day in Kaohsiung, right? So and they have a dinner here afterwards. Yeah.
Correct. So 1st of November was the official opening of the event, and we still wanted to live broadcast what is happening in Kaohsiung because they did an amazing show. So there was not much going on in other hubs, and considering it was a Sunday, there was only a small part live stream, so only this 1.5 hours. But yeah, for other hubs, it was arrival days, city tours, etc. And then the actual event with education started on Monday the 2nd.
Yep, 3 a.m., which I think is a great time for Europeans, but that's okay because it's recorded, right? And if you can't watch it all, you can always watch it later, right? So that's
correct. If you want to watch, you can. And actually, this session was really interesting. We did a song together with Song Division. So I think mainly our Asian members and people from the Americas, they joined in due to the time zone. But yeah, it was recorded, so of course everybody can watch it again.
So they were on different days, technically, right? So
yeah,
the Americas
for some it was Sunday
before.
evening, exactly, and for the others it was Monday already. That was interesting. Yeah.
Really. So we have a lot of content here on site, and then also things overlap slightly, and also worth pointing out that there's Kaohsiung and Kuching, right? So they had different content, and then different content that has different duration times, so it becomes quite hard to display on this kind of view. So not always the simplest thing, but all the information is here, and you can always click on any of the bits to go into other ones. And then you can see Riyadh. So I guess the hubs are sort of from east to west. So you have Riyadh and Cape Town and Luxembourg and Malaga all kind of opening up, and you can see the content starts to, and then you have these green bits that are the kind of common bits, right? Where you have the major speakers and those are transferred across all the different hubs.
Correct. We started at 7:45 Central European time with like a morning chat. So welcome the online audience, explaining what awaits us, and then continuing with the sessions. And yeah, these were like 4 hours that was live streamed to everybody around the world, for everybody.
Yeah. So I think this is really fascinating. I think this is one of the learnings. If there's any software manufacturers out there, if somebody can have a great way to display these multi-time zones and multi-hub timetables, I'd love to see it, because it's definitely something that we'd like. Something that sounds simple but isn't actually very simple to achieve. So it'd be good to see that. And I think Katrin is asking, what program did you use for this table? I believe it was just HTML, right? It was just coded on the website, or did you have something else?
It's from our registration system, Events Air. It's their website.
I mean, not knocking on Events Air. Everything's there. It's just hard to sometimes understand the flow. And I think if you have just the flow of one hub, it's easier.
We first, before showing it like this, we tried to show it in the local time zones, but you don't want to see that. That was even a bigger mess. So then we said, okay, we have the most members. We do have them in Central European. So and our members are always used to have whenever we have sessions or our events presented in Central European time. So that's why we chose this time zone to reflect everything in that time zone, and then we added these lovely clocks there, so people could see the different time zones.
It's good to know. And just in case you had any doubts, the show is live. This is the time right now. So here's the clock.
So to make it a bit easier for the people that are going to a hub, we created PDFs. So if you click, like you see the gray boxes there, these are like then programs only for the hub. So if you would go somewhere, you see what's happening.
So if you're really focusing on the local content, then this is what you go for. And then also within these, you have the green sections that show the content that's for all the hubs, right? And then the local content.
And obviously you have the app as well. So if you go somewhere, you probably don't look at this, but then you look at the event app like you would always do. And for the online audience, so during the event, we had this program as well on the platform. And that was then where you could a bit easier transfer to your time zone and check exactly what's going on right now, which stream is live, which one is on demand already, what can I watch right now.
Excellent. Well, okay. Well, that is good to visualize, good to understand what's going on. So let's get back into some of the questions that people brought up. I wanted to ask about the amazing speakers. I mean, you had the Minister of Digital Technology from Taiwan. We saw who's called Patty Cosgrove from the Web Summit there. You had some pretty high-level speakers. I mean, I have to say I'm impressed. Could you tell us a little bit about how you were able to invite them? And do you think that the fact that it was a hybrid Congress made a difference to them, being part of it?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've never attracted such high speaker lineup, and also the amount of speakers. I mean, over 200 speakers, I think. So that was also pretty impressive. But I think that the fact that it was hybrid and also that they could just join virtually made it way easier for them to attend. So maybe if we would go somewhere, they maybe would have not joined. Because, for example, Paddy from the Web Summit, we know his event is next week. So I'm sure he has other things also to organize right now. But because it was virtually, because he could join online, it was fine for him to join. And so we worked together with Maritz Global Events to attract those speakers, but also the local hubs and their connections helped a lot. So I think that the team from Malaga, they had a good connections to Paddy, for example, and that's how we could attract such high-profile speakers.
Very good. Yeah, really interesting. And tell us a little bit about the business model of the event. So I know that it was a paid event. If you could tell us the prices, I think it's interesting for everybody to know. That's always a question that people want to talk about. But whatever you can reveal in terms of sponsors and registration. So what was the business model like, and how was it different to what you would normally do for the ICCA Congress?
So it was very similar to our normal event. So we had the registration fee starting from 395 euros for the virtual attendance, and then increasing a little bit if you go to a hub. And also we had a special price for non-members, and we attracted a lot of more non-members this year because it was so easy for them to join. Then we had the sponsors. And there was quite a lot of demand for sponsors because a lot of member companies wanted to be associated with the event and also show they are ready again to host events. So we had a high demand in Asian sponsors, for example, because they could really show like, yeah, we are ready again most countries, they are open again to have to host events. So yeah, it was very similar to our face-to-face events. Like mainly the income was from registration fee and sponsorship income.
And how did you find the conversations with the sponsors? Were they, kind of interested? Were they able to support in the same way, or was there a lot of fear?
They were really curious, but it also took a bit to explain to them what we are going to do. Same to our members, because they were all like, what is ICCA creating there? And it's something that nobody in our industry has done yet. So that took a while to explain to them what advantage it has to sponsor in a virtual event. But once they understood it, and I think also afterwards now, they noticed the value and the reach that they had. So we created like a little exhibition on our platform, and they basically had their profile there throughout now 3 months instead of just 3 days. So and also of course the reach now is much higher. We had more attendees. So yeah.
Really interesting. Okay. Just goes to show, Danique is the only person participating now that says that she's working on a hybrid event. So we're talking about the hybrid events, but they're still rare, at least in this really, truly hybrid multi-hub kind of stage. So Danique, thank you for sharing. So she's working on one right now. Those scales not comparable. It's a smaller music festival, but she says clear communication channels are key. Absolutely. We agree 100% with that. And how did you measure the success of this event? What in your mind was the goal, and did you reach it?
Yeah, so of course, like for me, is also the engagement, and I think that we received, like we achieved. We know how engaged the attendees were during the event, during the whole process, basically. And afterwards, now we are conducting a research with Yale. So we are obviously still waiting for the results. The survey is still open. So instead of a normal post-event survey, we are having a special research with them about the attendee behavior and what they thought about it and how it changed compared to a face-to-face event. So that is one way to measure the success. And of course, the viewing rates and the clicks of the platform, which is now way easier to check than face-to-face. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's pretty interesting. And it's amazing that you're going all the way with this research. This is not just your normal kind of simple survey or anything like that. This is quite a lot beyond that. So really well done for doing that. We're almost at time, so I want to make sure we try to answer as many questions as we can. And we've had a few about the future. I think Handan had a really nice comment to say about it wasn't Handan, it was Linda Garzon. She says, for sure, the ICCA Congress is a milestone for ICCA and the industry, and it sets a new model for planning events. How do you see the planning process execution for the 2021 Congress? And what are the expectations of different stakeholders in 2021? And I think what Linda's asking is, what's next? How do you top this? And what do you think the expectations are for people involved for next year's Congress?
Yeah. Well, we will see, I would say. So the planning started now for next year, and we will still discussing if we go again the hub, if we have hubs or not, or just hybrid. So yeah, we will see next year what we will do. But this was definitely something that I don't know if it can be topped. And yeah, so let's see. But I'm sure most of our events will be virtual, at least. I have a virtual component.
Okay. Well, let me just bring this up, which I think is one of the things we mentioned earlier. So this is a software called Wonder.me, right? And this was an attempt or part of the program at connecting people. Can you explain what's going on here? Because I think this is an interesting feature that we should highlight.
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of Wonder, which is called YoTribe before. And we used it for all our virtual events this year. So it's a simple website, and you can just join in. So we connected this link, we embedded it to the website. So then once people clicked on it, a new tab will open and they jump right in there. So you can change the background image. So we had like a little bit of Congress design, there and said like, okay, this is a networking lounge. If you have a one-on-one meeting, please do not disturb, because otherwise, you see the little bubble there, people can just join and you can create meetings up to many people. But if you see two people in the do not disturb area, just let them talk on their own. If not, then you can join a big conversation. And it's a very simple tool, which is for free, and I can highly recommend it to make any event more engaging.
And did a lot of people participate? How did it work in practice?
Yeah, so mostly during the breaks. So we also had a lot of breaks throughout the program. So throughout this 4-hour block that was for everybody, we had 2 breaks, and one was even like half an hour. So people really had time to network, to go there. And I like sometimes join, and I saw a lot of little bubbles and people engaging and talking. So yeah, it definitely worked.
Excellent. And was it mostly the online attendees networking with other online attendees? Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the people on site, they could join, but as I said, I think they rather had a coffee with the people there.
Yeah, it feels a little artificial, but I think it's a great tool to try and replicate that idea of kind of serendipity meetings, right?
Correct.
You kind of walk around and
walk around, join different groups. Okay, there's another group. Okay, I'll join them now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Any last thoughts, Sina? We're running out of time. I wanted to announce the next event as well, so I want to make sure I save a little bit of time for that. What advice would you give to yourself for anybody trying to do this themselves, and any kind of thoughts that you have that you'd like to share with the audience? We have about 70 people still with us.
Great. Well, important that you have time, which we didn't have. So make sure that you have a lot of prep time, start as early as possible. I mean, this year you've seen a lot of events transforming to virtual or hybrid. So if your event is next year, make sure to start the planning as soon as possible. Have a great team. Don't be afraid to ask other event organizers, but also the experts like the technology companies and other experts in that field who've done that. So like for us, the RPG was a really important player. We had our contact people there. We had regular meetings every week. So without them, obviously, that would have not been such a success. Otherwise, make sure that all your tools can be connected. So if you have a registration software that can be connected to the platform, etc. Make sure.
And in the case of Wonder, just to clarify, you can just click on a link and it opens up immediately, right? So that was the easiest connection ever, right? If you know the link, you go and you network, right?
Correct. Yeah. And otherwise, in terms of streaming, so check where your audience is based, because we have a lot of members in China, for example, and as we know, some streaming platforms are not accessible there. So that was one of the challenges. Make sure to test for all your audiences that it works. So in the end, we used Dcast, which is an alternative streaming platform, and is accessible everywhere around the world. So make sure to test that. Otherwise, communicate very well to your members about the format. So we've done a lot of videos. So we focused our marketing really on videos, in addition to emails, as always. But I think videos always say more than a couple of
really trying to explain how it's going to work, right?
Yeah. So much better, easier to understand for everybody. So I think these are the main key takeaways. I mean, now that we've gone through the process, I think we can tackle every event. You learn. It was a great learning, definitely.
Well, I'd like to use Sean's words. Thank you, Sina, the producer of the Mice Oscars. He says he quoted this from the guests. I think that's great. Alexander is saying great tips. And Handan is also saying thank you to both of us. Great to catch up. Unfortunately, she missed the Congress, but was able to watch now. Marjolein says, hello, thank you so much. And Claire Gray says, fantastic work. So really appreciate everybody joining us. We're a minute from time. So I want to just take the opportunity to thank Sina. Really appreciate you being here and sharing all this useful information. I think there's a lot of content in this episode, and a lot of people can learn from this in doing their own events. I wanted to share the next event that I'm doing. We're having the next guest is Milde Salschute, who works at The Next Web, who both Sina and I know well. And that'll be next Wednesday at the same time, 4 o'clock. I'll put a link in the group, in the event, so that you can sign up for that. And I wanted to share with you a couple of resources. One is the online events wiki that I'm creating slowly, work in progress. But if you're interested in learning about different tools and different articles and different things for creating online events, please check out onlineevents.wiki. And if you'd like to know about the editions of Cooking Up Virtual Events that we do in the future, sign up to our mailing list at swiy.io chat virtual, and you'll sign up for our mailing list, and we'll send you a notification of the upcoming shows. So hopefully you won't miss any. And of course, you can always watch them on demand if you do miss any. So thank you very much. We're a few seconds over time. I appreciate everybody sticking around. I hope you enjoyed it. Big thank you to Sina for being with us, and see you next Wednesday. Hopefully you'll join us once again.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.